Hello everyone. This video is a recording of a dive I did on East Flower Garden Banks of a 3-day trip aboard the MV Fling to the Flower Gardens, which is in the Gulf of Mexico. This dive was the first dive of the second day on a beautiful coral reef from around 70 feet for about 40 minutes or so, exploring around in beautiful crystal clear waters. We saw lots of life and lots of fish. It was a lovely, very relaxing dive on a beautiful day. With that, let's jump in. And so begins an absolutely lovely dive in the flower gardens. Like I say, there's my buddy Ken waiting for me, giving me the okay as we started heading our way along the line here, making our way to the reef. But first of all, where were we? Here you can see a map of where the Flower Gardens is in the Gulf of Mexico. Let's zoom in a little bit. You can see Freeport to the northwest there, which is where we'd set off 2 days previously. Zooming in, we can actually see where the boats we were on, the MV Fling, is usually moored during the week. There she is, right there. We set off 2 days prior to this, boarding at around 7, leaving at around 9 p.m. and heading out all the way overnight to the Flower Gardens, the West Flower Gardens, which you can see there, around 120 miles or so. We then did a whole day of diving, and this is the second day. The first residents there, some crevalle jacks waiting for us on the bottom. A whole load of them who kept us company for much of the dive and came in close towards the end. So many beautiful fish. They were huge, those jacks. Quite curious and swam all around us. Other divers from the boat who jumped in just after us, enjoying the jacks as well. And there you can see below us the vista of all the coral of this particular coral reef. No current at all, so we are just floated down, my buddy Ken and I, to following the line down to this the buoy, which you can see anchored just ahead. So this particular section was the third time on this trip we had dived this section of the Flower Garden Banks, the East Flower Garden Banks. We'd done it the day before and had moored up here overnight. So we'd done a night dive here. And then in the morning we actually changed buoys. So this is the second buoy. This is buoy number 3. We had dived a different one on the previous day. We dived buoy number 4 on the previous day. So we changed overnight to this one, which is a different part of the same area of the reef. So something different for us to do. You can see there the line. Oh, and fellow diver Brian there on the left, one of the members of CHUM, Central Houston Underwater Mariners, who was with us on this dive. Around 30 divers on board the MV Fling for this trip, of whom 11 or 12 I think were from CHUM. The line there was put for us early in the morning before we got in by the dive masters, who were excellent on this dive. Aaron and John, they were truly remarkably professional. Really, really great. Some life right there. So many fish. Some beautiful coral, some brain coral there, some star coral next to it. A lot of very, very healthy, beautiful looking brain coral all over this reef. And a lot of color too, hard to see when it's at a distance. You can see a little better when my light is on it. You can see me swimming over the coral here, following the line. Just really enjoying all of the life and all the coral. My buddy Ken was close behind me as per usual. And goal here was to follow that line, really, to keep us, give us a guide. Very easy to get lost here in this section of the reef, because it all looks the same, generally speaking. So navigating our way back to that buoy, even though the visibility, as you can see here, is easily 100 feet. Easy to get further than that from the buoy and then not be able to see the boat or the buoy. So we didn't want that to happen, so we stayed close to the line, which was run for 100 feet or so to a reel at the end. Followed that and stayed within eyesight of it and followed it back, making for a very, very comfortable dive. This dive in all was around 54 minutes in total, including a 3-minute safety stop on the way up, which I haven't included in this video, but everything up until then pretty much I have. There's my buddy Ken in front of me this time, looking out for life. We know there's some turtles around here. We were on the lookout for some. That's Brian. Hey, Brian. The water was cool. It was 79 at the surface and around 77 here at the bottom, which was around 72 feet right here. So many folks were wearing wetsuits. I was wearing a dry suit, as was my buddy Ken here, and I was very glad of it. There's Tamara with Brian there, my buddy, fellow chummers as well. This is my third trip on the Fling, on the MV Fling, out to the flower gardens, and absolutely wonderful. Oh, there we go, 65 feet, 6 minutes in. Plenty of air at this point. Started off with around just under 3,000 psi of nitrox once again on this dive. Nitrox being regular air at 21% oxygen with additional oxygen added in order to give us longer no deco times due to the reduced amount of nitrogen in the air that we're breathing. So mine was 28% oxygen in this particular dive, giving me that 53 minutes at this depth, even after a 10-hour service interval. We'd had this was a particularly pleasant dive because we'd had a busy dive of 5 dives the previous day, and we'd moored up, like I say, at this spot overnight. So it was we all slept, I think, very deeply, having got thoroughly worn out with all of our very, very enjoyable dives on the previous day. They were all absolutely wonderful, including a night dive at the end of the day. But certainly I think all of us really were just absolutely exhausted, and so I think everyone slept very, very well on the boat, which just rocked us all to sleep. Very gentle swell. The weather was absolutely beautiful for this weekend, and so we woke very refreshed and got in. This dive was, like I say, the first one, so we were up at 7 or so and had a light continental breakfast, and this jumped in the water. So it was 8:10 when I got in the water. So this was so it's not as bright as it was on subsequent dives, but having been rested and fed, and this was a very, very nice way to begin the second day's diving. So We knew what we were in for because we'd, like I say, dived this area, the East Flower Gardens, twice the previous day. So we knew we were just expecting more of the same, really, which is exactly what we got. So, which was lovely, as you can see. Lots and lots of very, very beautiful coral. Lots and lots of fish. And so for us, this was a very pleasant float about. So French angelfish in the middle of the screen up there. We get a little closer to a pair of those a bit later in the dive. So a little sandy spot here, looking for any creatures who might be visible, hiding. We know there are some out there. A lot of places for them to hide. Eels, crustaceans. We knew we had plenty of time. Expected to get a good 40 minutes. So there's my buddy Ken, lying on the sand, looking for creatures. I think he saw something hiding under there at one point. I think it swam off before I could get any video of it. His light looks a little red on this video because I've adjusted the rest of the video for the lack of red due to the depth. So his light was actually, and as mine, a natural color, not the reddish you see. And everything else was much more muted, didn't have any reds in it. Oh, time for some photos. Always got time for that. So yes, I've enhanced the video to put some red back in, so that it looks a little better right here. The red is taken out by the depth. Fellow diver there wondering what we'd seen. Again saying, it went, it's gone. We missed it. So due to the temperatures, the mid to high 70s temperatures, I was wearing a dry suit, like I say. And very glad of it too. Would have been a little cool in a wetsuit. I think maybe 5 mil would have been okay, but diving dry was certainly my preference for this dive. Very, very comfortable in my tri-laminate that I had with the manufacturer is waterproof, and they make some undergarments called Body X, which are thin, relatively thin undergarments that I wore into the suit, which was just enough to keep me comfortably toasty without feeling all bundled up. Didn't need to wear very much underneath it. Just a little bit of warmth for the time we were down there. Trying to get close to these little guys without being too close, of course. The area here, East Flower Garden Banks, is a protected sanctuary, so there's no touching of anything. Only taking video and photos. Yeah, this little guy was hanging out, so I was watching him for a bit. Quite tricky maintaining buoyancy, making sure I didn't touch anything, and keeping the camera steady. The camera I used here incidentally is this was a GoPro 11. It's at 4K at 60 frames a second, so if you're watching this on, recommend watching this on a big screen TV to get the best effect. And my hope here is that, barracuda back there, you see him behind the coral towards the left. There are a number of those around, a lot of teeth. peering in here to see who was hiding in here. Very pretty. Along with a very pretty brain coral there. So much of it, all looking so healthy and alive. Feeding, in fact, you can see the little polyps sticking up. There was feeding on all the particles you see floating about. There's now the barracuda cruising past. So at this point, I'm very settled in to the dive, just really, really enjoying a very enjoyable float and all of the life and all the beautiful coral living down here. Trying to capture it with my light there, bring out some of the colours and the detail. Again, swimming as close as I could without being too close. Absolutely being careful not to touch anything. A beautiful star coral there, I believe. Just hovering just above everything below. Hopefully you get the idea and see it's just like being in a most enormous aquarium. Absolutely beautiful. No current. Very clear water. Lots and lots of life swimming about. Yes, I remember how much I thoroughly enjoyed this first dive of the day. And I knew I had a great big breakfast waiting for me when I came up at the end of it. We were certainly fed lots of food after every dive. 4 dives on this day, including a night dive. We relocated after 2 dives on this area of the reef to a different part of the flower garden banks called Stetson, which was a boat ride away. Just see a few other divers there. Plenty of space on this reef for all of us. So it never felt crowded, even with 30 folks on the boat. Most of us getting in within 10-15 minutes of one another. And so therefore coming up in a similar amount of time, or 45 minutes or so. Plenty of room for everyone. And a change of camera there, you may have noticed, just checking, so 63 feet, 22 minutes in. Change of camera because the GoPro 11 overheats after around those 22 minutes, like I say. Set at these settings when recording continuously, so I switched now to a GoPro 10 that I'd brought with me so I could continue continuously videoing the rest of the dive. pair of French angelfish guarding their territory here, usually found in pairs like this, because they are very territorial. And so this area of this reef will belong to these two. You see him glaring at me. So 36 minutes into the dive now, looking for my buddy Ken. There he is, and I notice that same shoal of jacks that greeted us when we first came down was surrounding him. I pointed them out, he hadn't seen them. And there they are, swimming around us once again. An absolutely beautiful sight. Checking my computer here, we're at 55 feet, 36 minutes or so in, and around 1300 psi of air remaining for me there. My computer was integrated via a Bluetooth sensor on my first stage behind my head, so I was able to use it to keep a track of how much air I had left. Target coming out with around 800 or so, so this dive indeed came up with around that, so at this point still good for time. Just another 5-6 minutes or so to make our way back to where the buoy is anchored into the concrete where we first came down. Time to enjoy the coral and the life some more. You can see some of the other divers in our group are also doing the same thing, following the line back to where we came down and then working our way gradually back up it, stopping for around 3 minutes between 10 and 20 feet for a safety stop. So coming towards the end of the dive here, keeping an eye on my buddy Ken's air. There's Crevel Jack still keeping us company, as you can see there. That beeping. There's my buddy Ken's computer warning him that he's starting to get low. So it was soon after this that we started to think about coming back up. So definitely starting to get towards the end of the dive at this point. Just one last check of my computer. Let's see what we've got. Yes, 993 psi. Definitely time to start thinking about moseying on up. So at this point, we're very close to the buoy right there. We've just been circling it, really. There's my buddy Ken. He's still looking for life in amongst the rocks over there. But I was signaling to him that it was probably time to start thinking about going up, and he agrees that upward thumb symbol is, yeah, let's head on up. And so at this point, that's what we did. Absolutely lovely, lovely dive. Being the gradual ascent, following the conveniently placed buoy right there, and enjoying the view as it dropped away below us as we came up. Gradually ascending, 53 feet. Other divers up ahead, you can see, working on their safety stops already. Time for a quick selfie. We've got time one of those, surrounded by the Creole Jacks. A little okay there, because I had a fabulous dive at this point. Me and the Jacks and my buddy Ken. An absolutely wonderful time. Hopefully this video captured some of that, because I remember just how great this felt. Divers floating up ahead. There's the yellow line that we followed down, which leads back to our boat, which you can't see easily even from here. Hence the line to help us. She was moored on that buoy, but a good distance away. Last look at the vista below us as we climbed up, well, floated up the rope really. It was all okay, because I knew in a couple of hours at this point we'd be, after a very large breakfast, we'd be back in this very same water. So I had that at least to look forward to. And so begins my safety stop. With that, thanks very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.